Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, providing you with hope and inspiration as you become more connected to yourself. Your safe vessel, helping you move to a higher consciousness to reignite your voice and discover who you are destined to be really inside you. I am Isabel, your host. I am also an author, entrepreneur, and a life transformation and spiritual coach. Most importantly, I am a perpetual student of life, just like you. So let's explore together. Claim what is already inside you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, and I am your host, Isabel. Thank you so much for being here today. You could be anywhere else listening to any podcast that you're here with us today, and I appreciate it. As I say about my guests, I feel like my guests are pretty special, and today I have a special woman with me. I have never physically met her. We met online, but just I felt a connection with her. And if I can be honest, it's when you meet people and you feel like I can learn from this person. I don't know that yet, but that's how I feel about Debi. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about Debi. I'll give you her bio and then introduce her, and we're going to jump right in. But as always, please subscribe, share. Remember, this is a space where we speak about all humanity, what we're experiencing in life. So take the time to get whatever you can from what we're going to share today. I don't care how small it is, right? Utilize it. Let it shift something within you. Because I don't know about Debi, but one thing I know about me, 10 years ago, I was not the woman that's sitting here right now telling you about life and how things should be happening. So sometimes we all need permission. And I hope today we will give you the permission to want to start to becoming the best version of yourself. So I'm going to jump right in and do Debi's bio so you guys have an idea of the amazing human being that we have in front of us today. So her name is Debi Silber. Did I pronounce that correctly? I always want to make sure I have people's name correctly. Okay, thank you. So that's Debi Silber. She is the founder and CEO of the PBT, Post-Betrayal Transformational Institute. And it's the world's leading organization that is dedicated to betrayal recovery. How powerful. She's a holistic psychologist. That means health, mindset, and personal development expert. She has helped thousands of people heal from emotional, physical, and psychological impact of betrayal. She's an amazing best-selling author, speaker, and a researcher whose groundbreaking work has identified the 5 stages people go through from betrayal to breakthrough. Through her amazing work, she empowers individuals to rebuild trust, reclaim their health, and create lives that are stronger, wiser, and more aligned than before. Perfect guest for the Loud Whisper Healing Space podcast. So thank you, Debi. Thank you for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes. So I'm just going to jump right into it. My first question for you, you talk about betrayal, and this is what you do. So you didn't just study betrayal, you lived it. What was the moment, or maybe several moments? I know we always ask people what's the moment, but life is an accumulation of things. So what I'll say is, what made you realize, not the moment, just what made you realize what you went through had a name, a pattern, and a...
Yeah. So, I had a really painful betrayal from my family, and then I thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that. And then a few years later, it happened again. This time it was my husband. So that was the deal breaker. Got him out of the house, looked at the 2 experiences, thinking what's similar here besides me. And I realized I never really took my own needs seriously. Boundaries were always getting crossed. And I'm one of those people that believes if nothing changes, nothing changes. I had to heal. I had to move through this. And I would always go to books or courses or mentors to help me through something that I found challenging. And there wasn't anything. And this was so big that I decided to study it so big. So here it was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a business, and I enrolled in a PhD program. I hadn't been in school in 30 years, and it was this PhD program. I wanted to study betrayal at the highest level. And I did. And as I was going through the program, I said, I have no idea how I'm going to heal from this. But if I do, I'm taking everyone with me. It was just a knowing. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changes everything we know about betrayal. So just went into the experience hoping to heal, walked out of it with a PhD, discoveries, and helping thousands of people in the process.
Wow, I love it, love it. Are you able to share your groundbreaking discoveries?
Yeah, I'd love to. So the first one, if you've been through other traumas, betrayal is a different experience. And when you think about it, like let's take death of a loved one, right? That was something I had been through, and I was like, I've been through disease, and I was like, betrayal feels different, but I didn't want to assume it was the same for everyone in my study. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously, they said it's so different, and here are just a few reasons why. Think about it: when you lose someone you love, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the lost. Life will never be the same. But you don't go back and question that relationship. You don't question your ability to trust. You don't question your sanity. With betrayal, you do. Also with betrayal, what happens is like, again, let's take someone you love. People rally. What do you need? How can I help? When there's a loss. With betrayal, so often there's so much shame, embarrassment, humiliation. So the betrayed is struggling and suffering in silence. And to make it even worse, very often the betrayer is loved by the family, the friends, the community. So they're taking the hit and protecting the betrayer at their own expense. So here they've had one of the most painful of the human experiences, and they're just trying to act like everything is fine. Also, when you think about it, when you lose, again, let's use that example of losing someone you love. The invitation is to rebuild your life, of course, without them, but rebuild your life. Well, with betrayal, there's a complete and total shattering of the self, rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. So what happens is people say, okay, well, I'm just going to try to move forward. And they never rebuild the self. And they're wondering, why is it that it's decades later and they're still struggling? That's one of the biggest reasons why. I mean, I can go on and on, but betrayal is a very different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. That was the first discovery.
It's so powerful that you say that. It's so interesting as you're explaining, right, to us about betrayal in layman's terms, which I love for us to understand. I felt like you were just painting a picture of me. The way you were breaking it down. But I did not, for the life of me, I just learned something new. Although I felt it, I could never name it that there's a difference between the betrayal. That's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
It's so
my
different.
betrayal, what I did is I ended up self-betraying a lot. So I lived a lot from self-betrayal. But then now it's like, boom, that aha moment made sense to me listening to how you are actually breaking it down as to how we do that. And then also to how they celebrate the betrayal. I always say they celebrate the perpetrator. Society always celebrates the perpetrator. That's why people don't talk about their pain, their betrayal, their shame. It's because society always celebrates the one who did the act.
Yeah, and it's like you break your leg and you're running a marathon. I mean, it's impossible. And also, the trust is one of the biggest factors here. And I wrote the book Trust Again, so I get the importance of trust. But what happens also is, think about it. This was the person you trusted the most who proved untrustworthy. This was the person you'd run to when other people are causing harm, who's become the person causing the harm. So it's absolutely unsettling, I mean, to say the least. But what happens also is one of the biggest parts of the trust piece, well-meaning, coaches, therapists, counselors, they're like, oh, you need to learn to trust again. And good intentions. And they say start with the low stakes things, like start trusting a friend with something that really isn't that big, right? That is so often. Here's why. think about it. We have a system to discern trustworthiness. Like we have our own system. Like if someone says or does something 50 or 100 times, whatever it is for us, we say, you know what, I can trust that person. Okay. So now imagine they betray that trust. As shocking as that is, what's even worse that people don't address is we look at it and say, uh-oh, my whole system is broken. My compass is broken. My system that I've created to decide who's safe and who's not is fundamentally flawed. I can't trust myself. You see? And that's
Extremely powerful. Okay, go ahead. Oh my.
yeah, but this is why people say, they don't trust and they stay behind walls. Most people do that because they've never learned to rebuild. They just want to trust in others. And I get it, makes total sense. But think about it. How can you, if you don't rebuild that compass? You don't trust anything, anyone, because your whole system, you look at it like my system is broken. I can't trust my own judgment. Look what happened when I did. You see?
Why are you talking about me right now? That's how I was, but now there's just a name to it. And it makes sense. So then you don't trust yourself because the person that betrayed you, you trusted them. So now questioning your own judgment.
You're questioning everything because think about it. If you can't trust the person you trusted the most, the next part of this is you say, where was I? How did I not see? How did I not know? So if you can't trust the person you trusted the most and you don't trust yourself, how in the world can you trust in anything or anyone? It shows up everywhere. And, this could lead to the second discovery where the trust is such a huge factor. We've studied over 100,000 people. And what came out of the second discovery was there's a collection of symptoms so common to betrayal, physical, mental, and emotional symptoms. It's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. And happy to share those
Please.
facts.
I mean,
And-
this is flow. Please, we need to hear this. So go ahead.
Yeah. And these numbers, the numbers I have actually haven't been updated since we just released the biggest report ever released on betrayal, which has, it's 100,000 total, but 73,500 participated in this study. You could find, it's on my site. It's called the State of Betrayal Report. It is staggering what these stats are. They're higher than what I'm going to share with you. But just to give an idea, this is men, women, just about every country is represented. As much as I'm going to share the symptoms, I want you to hear these numbers. Ready? 78% constantly revisit their experience. So when you think of that, when you're busy going back and revisiting, think about how exhausting that is. Think about how you're not moving forward because you're busy in the past. And that's important to do because remember I said about the trust piece that was broken? We do that in the beginning. We keep going back and we're doing that because we're looking for what we missed. Because we're thinking, if I can figure out what I missed here, it'll prevent it from happening again.
Yeah.
I can regain that sense of safety and security. You see? Now, when we do it for too long, that's because we've created this loop that's keeping us stuck. And if you remind me later, I'll tell you a story about that. Okay. 81% feel a loss of personal power. Think about the decisions you make, what you accept, what you tolerate when you feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers. If anybody has ever had a trigger, you know how painful they can be. Some of the most common physical symptoms, 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. That means you go to sleep, you wake up, you're exhausted. Your adrenals have tanked. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe you can't hold food down. Later on, you're emotionally eating, using food for comfort.
Just eating.
That's it, right? You're numbing, avoiding distraction
Numbing.
just to get through your day. 45% have a digestive issue of some kind. Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, reflux, you name it. So common. So I'll tell you a story about the gut issues if you remind me. Some of the most common mental symptoms, 78% are overwhelmed. 68% can't focus, 62% can't concentrate. Just imagine this. Here, you can't concentrate, you can't focus, you're exhausted, you have a gut issue. We're not even talking about the emotional issues yet. And here you're supposed to work every day. You're supposed to raise your kids, take care of your elderly parents, whatever you have going on. You see?
You know what's scary for me and what's fascinating as you're saying these numbers, and I'll let you continue, is how many people live like this.
Well, yeah. You will see that in the third discovery.
Example, that was my life. Listen, David, not for 2 years. I mean years and years and
But yeah.
years. I lived like that.
You lived in stage 3. And when I get to the third discovery, you'll see most people stay stuck for life, and there's a proven path through all of it. So I'll get to that. I just want to share some more emotional symptoms.
Please.
88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. And you're bouncing back and forth between those two all day long. Just a few more. 84% have an inability to trust. 84%. So if you can't trust, think about how are you moving through life with relationships, with your own judgment, with all of it. 67%, and I know for a fact this number got higher since this, what I'm saying, prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. That means they put the big wall up, keeping out the bad ones, but keeping out the good ones too. The majority of people do that. 82% finds it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but don't know how. What's even more staggering about these numbers, you didn't hear me say 20%, 30%, they're super high. This is also
50%.
Yeah,
All of
yeah.
them.
This is also not necessarily a recent betrayal. This could be from your parent who did something awful when you were a kid. This could be from your partner who broke your heart in high school. So think about this. That person may not know, care, remember. They may not even be alive. And here we are decades later with these symptoms because it was left unhealed. The good news is you could heal from all of it. And that was third discovery. And before I get to the
Now, but it's like, let's do it.
Yeah. And before I get to the third, I want to give you an example of how long you could stay stuck with this. For example,
story.
this is the gut story.
The gut story.
So 45% of everyone betrayed, right, has a gut issue of some kind. So we had a woman in our program, and she was in her mid 80s, and she had a 70+ year digestive issue from a family betrayal. She was adopted. They didn't tell her. It's like something like that. So for 70+ years, you can imagine the supplements, the medications, the protocols, the food, all of it, just for her to say, I have a bad stomach. It's just who I am, right? 2 weeks into healing the betrayal, 2 weeks in our program, she healed from a 70+ year digestive issue. We see that all the time. But most people assume it can't possibly be from something that happened so long ago. When I share the third discovery, you're going to see how people live with it for life. Want me to share the third?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the third discovery, this was the most exciting. And I'll never forget the moment my study chair said, I believe you've discovered a process here, because it was undeniable. And what we learned was, while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and most people do, if we're going to fully heal, we will move through 5 proven, predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage, and we know what we need to do to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. So all we do within the PBT Institute, our programs, our certification, is teach the 5 stages. So coaches, therapists, counselors can move their people through. Individuals can move through the 5 stages. It is proven. It's predictable. I could share what the 5 stages are, and you can see it. Yeah. So the first one is actually
big. Like, I know you teach it, but this is big, Debbie. People are living with this for years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, years, right? And we live in a society where it's telling us to ignore everything that we're dealing with internally and just keep going, keep doing.
Yeah.
But people are hurting.
They're in so much pain. If I tell you how many people they'll say to me, Dr. Debbie, I have been struggling with this for 40 years. I can't believe the difference this has made. If I tell you how many coaches and practitioners and therapists I've certified who say, I can't believe I was I was doing the best work I could that works on all of my other clients. And for some reason, it wasn't working on this one resistant client. They weren't resistant. It was a betrayal client. They show up very differently. That's why I wrote my most recent book, Unstuck, for practitioners, because they don't understand. They've never been taught the 5 stages of betrayal recovery. So they don't know. So the best tools used at the wrong time fail every single time. It's not them. It's not a failure of the tools. It's not a failure of the client or the therapist or counselor or coach. It's that betrayal requires a different process, a different protocol. Anyway, let me share the
Dr. Debbie, show us,
Yeah.
please.
So the first stage is before it happens. And what's so interesting here is when we're in what we think is a healthy relationship with a boss, a coworker, a partner, whatever, we're not scanning for betrayal. We're living our lives, raising our kids, going to work, doing what we have to do. And that's why it comes as such a shock. We're thinking and doing more than feeling and being, because we have so much going on that the only way we can get it done is to become almost machine-like. Now, we do something else. We either intentionally or unintentionally turn down our intuition. Now, unintentionally, we're doing it because we're like, we just have way too much to do. So I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Whatever, I'm just too busy. There's got to be a reason for whatever. I'm just too busy. But we intentionally, some of us, and I don't want anybody to be upset if this is what you're doing, we intentionally turn down our intuition. And we do that because we're making a decision. If I were to confront my partner, my boss, my whatever, on what my intuition is telling me, everything I've created is likely to unravel. And I don't have the mental, the emotional, maybe the financial bandwidth to take that on. So instead, I'm going to act like what I'm thinking, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. There's got to be an explanation. Does this make sense?
Makes total sense. What you're explaining is that loud whisper that I tell people, listen to your loud whisper. That's your
Yeah.
intuition.
Yeah. And we turn that down. We strengthen it afterwards because we realize it doesn't serve us when we turn it down. But we do that anyway. So then now there's stage 2, shock, blindsided, D-Day, discovery day. This is the scariest of all of the stages. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. We've ignited the stress response. We're headed for every single one of those symptoms I shared before. Our mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. We cannot understand what we just learned. Our worldview is completely shattered. The bottomed out on us, and the new bottom hasn't been formed yet. This is terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You grab hold of anything or anyone.
Anything to survive,
That's it.
just to hold on,
Just to hold on.
hold on to something.
Exactly. And that's stage 3, survival instincts emerge. This is the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this? Here's the trap though. Stage 3, by far, hands down, is the most common place we get stuck. And here's why. Because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma we just came from, we think it's good. And we don't even know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go. So we plant roots here. Now, here's the biggest trap. We're able to function again. We're able to go to work again. We're able to manage, but it's with a flatness. It's behind walls. It takes a lot of courage to be willing to learn how to trust again. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. And we're like, you know what? I'm safer right here. And so we do this. And this is what we do for a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But to add to it, here's also where we start going to therapy. Well-meaning, well-intentioned therapists, and what's happening is we're struggling with this. We feel heard, we feel validated, we feel understood. It's actually locking us in stage 3. We're not an inch closer. And when I certify coaches, And when I certify therapists, I go through this every single time because with 5 stages, I coach. I mean, when I'm certifying someone, I want to make sure it doesn't matter if you move them an inch, 5 inches, you are moving them towards the next stage. You are not just having them feel heard. What's that doing? That's not serving. Now in stage 2, it could be very helpful. It is
Yeah.
very helpful.
It,
In
it
stage
helps with awareness in stage 2, like becoming aware of what's happening, right?
Right? But in stage 3, it's locking them in that space. And now here's also where people join a support group, right? And now they feel like, oh, I have my people. And now what's happening is very often they sabotage their healing because they're afraid to outgrow their people. Very often they're growing and they're going to sabotage their healing because they're afraid to outgrow their betrayer. See this all the time. The other thing is because they're so miserable,
You are killing me today. What?
I mean, this is what we do. Because they're so miserable, but they don't know there's a path out. They don't know the 5 stages, right? They don't know stage 4 is waiting for them. Right here, they start numbing, avoiding, distracting. So they start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, whatever, to make the day a bit easier to get through. They do it for, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I can see someone 30 years later and say, that emotional eating you're doing, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? They'd look at me like I'm crazy. It happened 30 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Now here in stage 3, you're going to have repeat betrayals because nothing really changed. Nothing, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You're going to be medicating and suppressing symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome. And you're wondering why life stinks, right? So you go from, one betrayal to the next, symptom to symptom, living this life of just existing and surviving, by no means thriving. Can I get you out of stage 3?
Yes. I'm stuck in stage 3 because I was stage 3 for and you said it,
Most
a very long time. Most
Yeah, but blush.
way.
Yeah,
Just to be able to see it in the way you're breaking it down is extremely, oh my goodness, my audience, I hope you receive this because I'm a coach and hearing it the way you're explaining it.
yeah. So if you're a coach, you're a coach, and I'm going to tell you one of the biggest disservices you're doing with your clients because you didn't know, right? One of the biggest things is the client gets to a place that they're fine. You've used all your tools. You're like, I guess, what can I do? I don't know. For some reason, my stuff isn't working with them. And so you graduate that client. That client feels like, I guess this is just the best it's going to get. You feel like something was missing. You graduated them in stage 3. They're a betrayal client. They didn't come to you for that, but that's what was at the root of it. So, but think about, so you're going to get one kind of testimonial from them. Yeah, it was helpful. But now think about if you knew stages 4 and 5 and you knew the language of stage 3. And when you heard it, you start asking questions to gently invite them into stage 4, where transformation happens. It starts, and now think of the testimonial and the referrals you get and the income you get because you were able to walk someone through complete and total transformation. It's a game changer.
Game changer. And
So
what I love about what you said is stage 4 as a coach, if you get your client, because I always say with my clients, I want them to come to their own knowing, right? It's deep for them to come to their own knowing. I can tell you all the things, but you've experienced it. So let's just dig deep. But with what you just said is so powerful, even for my work. Listening to you when I think about it. So when you put them in stage 4, it's kind of like now you're giving them not even permission, the opportunity to really start looking at themselves in that way. Because 3, we are stuck.
and this is in stage 4, like this is the part that's fun and rewarding and the reason why you got into coaching. Here, stage 4 is very forward moving. What am I ready for? What do I want? Who do I want to become? What have I outgrown? How was I settling? And what you're doing is you're taking all the parts you love and you're leaving behind everything that no longer serves. And you're creating a version of you that never would have had the ability to be created had the experience not happened. That's trauma well served. So stage 4 is very forward moving, very, you're building, you're renewing, you are intentionally and deliberately building a new version of you. When you've settled into this space, you make it cozy, kind of mentally home, you move into the fifth most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. Now the body's starting to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. We didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now we do. We're making new rules, new boundaries, new all of it. And if I tell you how many in stage 5, new levels of health, new businesses, new passion projects, new relationships with the person who hurt you in a very different way, or someone entirely new. You didn't have access to that when you were stuck in stage 3. In stage 5, I mean, this is a new life that you've created from the ground up. But people are so afraid of the crash and burn of the old, and that's the only way you build the new. But that's the challenge. They stay with the familiar known instead of rebuilding. Now, rebuilding is always a choice, whether you, and just to close the loop on my own story, whether you rebuild yourself and move along. And that's what I did with my family. They were deeply stuck in stage 3. It was never going to change. I healed and moved along. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something entirely new from the ground up. That's what I did with my husband. So as two completely transformed people, we not long ago married each other again. Rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids is our bridal party. Now, I consider myself a bright woman. I never would have done anything nearly that dumb if he didn't completely transform and if I didn't either. And I've worked with thousands of betrayed and probably hundreds of betrayers. Transformation on both sides is completely possible. They both have to want individual transformation. And then when they do, they're meeting up again as 2 very different people.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So essentially you become whole again, right?
But in a very different way. You're so healthy, so whole, so strong, so healed, because you're looking at your old self saying, what parts am I keeping? Was I, big hearted and kind and loving? That stuff you bring along. But was I settling? Was I just not speaking up? Was I whatever? None of that comes along. None of that. But people aren't willing to do that because they don't like the confrontation of the other person. Like, you never used to be like that. What's that about? Or just get over it already. But meanwhile, nothing's really changing. So they're living this stage 3 life. Most people.
Yeah. And what you said is, as you were speaking, what came to mind is what I always say. I feel like just by hearing your story, now you get a chance to rewrite your story on your terms.
Completely.
Because a lot of us, we're living this life from either the inherited identity, and really it's inherited, or the trauma that has happened. Like I explained to you, I was in stage 3 for years,
Most people are.
and most people are. But then when you start to get to stage 4, you start the transformation. I say that's the time when you have the pen, and now you get to rewrite your story on your terms.
And that's why, when I certify coaches and practitioners and they know how to move someone through those stages, what they're able to do with their clients, they're leaving no stone unturned. And the thing is too, so often, like I certify a lot of like leadership coaches and executive coaches, the client isn't coming to them for betrayal. And
No.
And they're coming for success or confidence or more income or whatever.
They get mad at you if you start talking about internal trauma and all that. No, I'm not dealing with that. That's not what I'm here for.
And that's the thing. But meanwhile, they don't realize that the biggest block is that unhealed betrayal. And when they know how to talk about it, and never crossing the lines of therapy, when they know how to talk about it and when they have the tools and the resources to know, this is the tool you use to move someone from stage 2 to stage 3. This is what you say to guide them out of stage 3 into stage 4. When they have the process, the protocol, all of it, that client is so relieved because they're not stuck because they want to be. They're stuck because they didn't have a roadmap. The roadmap exists. It's the 5 stages of betrayal.
Wow. I Love it. I love it. I love it. What happens to a person's voice after betrayal, and how do they begin trusting themselves again?
Yeah, it's rebuilt from the ground up. That's the invitation. And again, they don't have to. You don't have to do anything. But what you want to do is you want to look at it like, yes, you have your story, but the worst of it happened already. You owe it to yourself to move to stage 5 and get a sense of what that feels like. Because if you had, if people knew for a minute what stage 5 felt like, they wouldn't waste a second in stage 3.
And I like that you say that, but here's the truth. I believe the reason why there is no human being on this planet that wants to live in pain. But like you said, if people knew what stage 5 felt like, they wouldn't be in stages 3 or 2 or 3, right? Let's just do 2 or 3. But I also think that in order to heal, you have to go through what you've been through, and not necessarily physically, but just like how you're explaining, you need to deal with the betrayal. You need to name it. You need to know exactly what's going on and identify what's happening with you. People don't want to live through that.
No,
People are afraid to live through that. I always say people are comfortable being uncomfortable.
yeah,
They're comfortable with the pain. Like you said, they know how to handle the pain. Let me just drink. Let me not numb it. Let me do this. Let me have sex. Let me do all these different things. Then once they do that, their nervous system and their ego literally sits and starts saying, okay, we're good, because it's familiar, but it's
that's it.
safe.
I've been coaching for 35 years, and there's a saying, and it holds true. I haven't found a topic it doesn't work with, and it's this: easy now, hard later. Hard now, easy later. Take your pick. It's one of those two. Most people, most people choose easy now. And I know they're looking at me, they're thinking right now, easy, this is so hard. Yes, it is. But it's easy now because if you don't change the thoughts, the behaviors, the actions, the habits, hard later, your problem is still there, right? As opposed to hard now, I am challenging every single thought, action, behavior, belief, all of it. That's really hard. Easy later. You're creating a new version of you.
So I have one last question for you before I let you go. And this question I'm going to ask because I've been talking about it for years. I explained to you that I experienced it. And I talk to the women that I work with about self-betrayal. I'm a firm believer because, we tend to always say, this person betrayed me, that person betrayed me. But I'm a firm believer that we are the number one betrayers of self. So talk to women about self-betrayal. Now, from your perspective, maybe the way you're going to break it down and explain it, talk to us about self-betrayal and why women self-betrayal betray a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we are the number one betrayers of self.
Yeah. There's such a close link between betrayal and self-betrayal. Like if you know someone is not in your best interest and you're just sticking around for it, that's self-betrayal. And we have so many reasons why we do so many things, and I'm not here to judge anybody. But what we're doing very often, we're enabling the situation by, and in doing so, we're betraying ourselves. Like, let's say we're not speaking up. We're tolerating something that isn't in our best interest. We're putting our needs last, whatever it is, that's self-betrayal. Because, right, we're so concerned. Well, I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. I don't want to, it's easier this way. Again, there's the easy now, hard later, right? So we're just, we're taking we're really paying the price for all of it. And women are so incredibly strong, so strong. So so just because you can do all of that, okay, I'll just take care of everybody's needs and not even consider my own, doesn't mean you should, and we, and I guess I've hit that burnout so many times. I can speak to that as well. Like I was doing it all, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a business, and trying to keep it all together, and I kept crashing. And when you finally realize I'm of no use or no value to anyone, most importantly myself, if I put my needs last constantly. But is it hard saying saying no? Is it hard instituting those boundaries? Yeah. And are you going to get the look from someone? Huh. What's that about? Yeah. If you can tolerate the 30 seconds of discomfort for, you know, for whatever it is that you got back in saying no, it's worth
An
it.
authentic life, I call it, right?
Mhm.
For truth, for
Yeah.
freedom, an authentic life.
And here's the thing too, when you start having your boundaries, there's a good chance you may outgrow some people because they liked it when they could, when they knew where you stood, when you didn't speak up, when when they could dump their stuff on you, whatever it was. So, you could love them for who they are, where they are, but if that stops you from healing, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. This has really blessed me today, blessed my soul. I know it's blessed everyone. So what I do normally at the end of my show, I give my guests the floor for you to say whatever you want to say to my audience. And also please don't forget to tell them where they can find you. And obviously when I release a podcast, I'll make sure that I put all the information there. But I want to give you the floor for you to say whatever it is that you'd like to say to my audience.
Yeah, thank you. So everything is at the PBT as in post betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com. That's where they can find the program, the certification, all of it. What I would say is the worst of it happened already. You owe it to yourself to see what it feels like to move through the 5 stages. And what I will say too, for those of you who've been through it, if you have to say it to yourself a million times, it's worth it. Even though it happened to you, it's not about you. It's not about you. Stop blaming yourself. It's keeping you stuck in stages 2 and 3.
And there you have it, my beloveds. There you have it. I hope this has blessed you today with Dr. Debbie. It's truly blessed me. I'm a coach and I've learned some things today, which I'm going to reach out with her because I always like to advance myself, right? I always say that my clients are not numbers. So whatever it takes for me to become a better human being, I believe that you can't lead anyone unless you're a leader in your own life. So as I continue being a coach, I have to continue refining myself. I have to continue growing and meeting people like Dr. Debbie, talking about betrayal, which is a huge part of my life and why I do what I do. It's just full circle for me. This is everything. So I hope you receive what I've received. And please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out. I know a lot of people think when I reach out to a coach, I have to pay all this money. I have to do, everybody does stuff differently. And you never know unless you try. The goal of this podcast is for all of us to heal, for us to create a better sense space of humanity, right? And it starts with you. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Debbie. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time and the space to be with us at the Loud Wisdom podcast. And always remember, this is your healing space. Well, until next time, please remember to subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family. One person heals, a generation heals. It just makes the world a better place. Thank you so much and take care.